My ex is coming to our anniversary party tonight. If you make it weird, if you even look at him wrong, we are done. I mean it, Mark. Be cool, or it's over. Sarah didn't even look up from her mirror as she painted her lips a blood-red shade I'd never seen her wear for me. I stood in the doorway, the gift in my pocket feeling like a lead weight. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just looked at her reflection and whispered, "I'll be exactly what you deserve." She thought that meant I'd be a doormat. She was dead wrong. If you've ever been handed an ultimatum by someone who clearly didn't respect you, you already know that gut punch feeling. Drop a fire in the comments if you've been there, and stick around, because Mark isn't done yet. To understand the absolute cold-blooded nature of what was about to happen, you have to understand who Sarah and I were, or who I thought we were. We had been together for 3 years. 3 years of what I believed was building a future. I'm a software architect. I build systems. I look for bugs. I find the glitches that ruin the logic of a program. I should have seen the glitch in Sarah a long time ago. She was vibrant, beautiful, and had this magnetic energy that drew people in, but there was always a shadow. That shadow had a name, Julian. Julian was the one that got away. The high school sweetheart, the reckless artist, the man who had broken her heart a dozen times, and whom she still spoke of with a shimmering reverence that used to make my skin crawl. For 3 years, I played the role of the stable partner. I was the one who picked up the pieces when her career stalled. I was the one who paid the down payment on our apartment. I was the one who listened to her dreams. But Julian was always there, a ghost in our relationship. A like on an Instagram photo here, a checking in text there. I tolerated it because I trusted her. That was my first mistake. My second mistake was thinking that my loyalty carried any currency in her world. 2 weeks ago, the tone changed. Sarah became distant. She started hiding her phone. A classic sign, I know, but when you love someone, you invent excuses. You tell yourself she's planning a surprise. You tell yourself she's stressed. Then came the announcement of our 3-year anniversary party. We invited 50 people. It was supposed to be a celebration of us. But 3 days before the event, she dropped the bomb. Julian was back in town. Julian was lonely. Julian was coming to our house. When she gave me that ultimatum, be cool, or it's over, something inside me didn't break, it crystallized. It was a moment of absolute clarity. She wasn't asking for my comfort. She was demanding my submission. She wanted me to stand by and watch her flirt with the man she actually wanted while I paid for the catering and the champagne. She wanted me to be the background noise in her romantic reunion. I spent the next 48 hours not in a state of grief, but in a state of preparation. I am an architect, remember? I know how to design a structure, and I know exactly where the load-bearing walls are. If she wanted a party she would never forget, I was going to give her exactly that. I began by looking into Julian. It turns out, the starving artist wasn't just starving for inspiration. He was starving for cash. He had a history of bad debts, burned bridges, and a very specific legal issue involving a previous muse that Sarah knew nothing about. As I prepared the house for the party, I was a ghost. I moved with a terrifying efficiency. I hung the lights. I chilled the wine. I even helped Sarah zip up her dress, the one she bought specifically because Julian once told her she looked good in emerald green. Every time she looked at me with that patronizing, "Thanks for being a good boy" smile, my resolve hardened. I had a digital file ready. I had the guest list managed. And I had a speech prepared that would change the trajectory of all our lives. The guests began to arrive at 8 p.m. Our apartment was a masterclass in modern luxury, the perfect stage for a tragedy. I moved through the crowd, playing the perfect host. I poured drinks, I made small talk about the tech market, and I kept my eyes on the door. Sarah was glowing, but her eyes were constantly darting toward the entrance. She wasn't looking for her parents. She wasn't looking for our best friends. She was waiting for the catalyst. At 9:15 p.m., he walked in. Julian. He looked exactly like the type of man who would ruin a woman's life and call it passion. Long, unkempt hair, a leather jacket that cost more than his rent, and an air of unearned confidence that filled the room like a noxious gas. I watched Sarah's face. She didn't just light up, she ignited. She practically ran to him, leaving me standing mid-sentence with our neighbor. I watched them from across the room. I watched him put his hand on the small of her back, my back, the one I had massaged when she was tired. I watched him whisper in her ear, and I watched her giggle like a schoolgirl. It was a performance of total disrespect. Several of our friends looked at me with pity. That pity was the fuel I needed. They thought I was the victim. They didn't realize I was the director. This story is just getting started. Subscribe so you don't miss the moment everything falls apart for the right person. And while you're at it, share this with someone who needs to hear that being the stable one doesn't mean being the fool. I approached them with a tray of expensive appetizers. Julian, right? I said, my voice as smooth as glass. I've heard so much about you, mostly about your artistic struggles. It's a pleasure to finally meet the man who occupies so much of my girlfriend's mental space. Sarah's face went pale. She shot me a warning look, the be cool look. I just smiled. Don't worry, honey. I'm being very cool. Julian, have a drink. On me. Everything tonight is on me. For the next hour, I played a dangerous game of cat and mouse. I made sure Julian was constantly supplied with top-shelf whiskey. A drunk man is a talkative man, and Julian was already naturally boastful. I steered him toward a group of our most influential friends, people who actually had the power to help an artist or ruin a liar. I watched as he began to weave his tales of grandeur, unaware that I had already planted seeds of doubt in their minds earlier that evening. I had told our friend Marcus, a gallery owner, that Julian was looking for investors for a new project, a project that I hinted might be a bit legally gray. I saw Marcus watching Julian with a predatory curiosity. Meanwhile, I stayed close to Sarah. I was attentive. I was kind. I was the perfect boyfriend. It was driving her insane. She wanted me to be angry. She wanted me to cause a scene so she could have a reason to leave me for him. By being cool, I was stripping her of her narrative. She couldn't be the victim if I was being the saint. But the real work was happening on the large 75-inch television in our living room. It was currently displaying a slideshow of our 3 years together. Beautiful photos of us in Paris, at the beach, moving into the apartment. It was the ultimate tribute to a loving relationship. Or so it seemed. I had hidden a very specific set of files at the end of that loop. Files that I had recovered from Sarah's old laptop. The one she thought was broken, the one she hadn't realized I'd repaired months ago. As the clock neared 10:30 p.m., the atmosphere was peak anniversary party. People were buzzed. The music was low and soulful, and Sarah and Julian were tucked away in a corner, their heads touching. It was time. I walked to the center of the room and tapped a knife against my glass. The ting-ting-ting silenced the room. Sarah looked up, a flash of annoyance crossing her face. She thought I was going to give a sappy toast. Everyone, if I could have your attention for a moment, I began. I looked directly at Sarah. She looked beautiful, and it was a shame that this was the last time she would ever feel this powerful. Tonight is about 3 years. 3 years of building, 3 years of dreaming, and 3 years of discovery. When Sarah told me Julian was coming tonight, she told me to be cool. She told me that if I made a scene, it was over. And I realized she was right. Our relationship as it was, it should be over. A collective gasp went through the room. Sarah stood up, her face turning from annoyance to pure rage. Mark, shut up. You're drunk. Sit down. I'm stone cold sober, Sarah, I said, my voice dropping an octave. Actually, I've never seen things more clearly. You see, I spent the last few days looking back at our history. Not just the photos on the screen, but the things we don't usually talk about. The things left in the deleted folders. The things sent in the middle of the night while I was sleeping right next to you. I pointed the remote at the TV. The slideshow of us at the beach froze. Then it flickered. The image on the screen changed. It wasn't a photo of us. It was a screenshot of a text message thread. The date was from 6 months ago. The recipient was Julian. Asterisk Sarah, I wish I was with you in that dive bar instead of at this boring corporate gala with Mark. He's such a drone. He has no soul, Julian. Not like you. Asterisk. The room went silent. You could hear a pin drop on the hardwood floor. Plot twist you didn't see coming? Hit that like button. It tells me you want more stories where the quiet one finally speaks. Trust me, it gets colder from here. Sarah's hand went to her mouth. Julian tried to stand up, but his whiskey-soaked legs wobbled. I clicked the remote again. Another screenshot. This one was more recent. 2 weeks ago. Asterisk Sarah. The anniversary party is the perfect cover. Everyone will be there. We can announce your return to the scene, and I'll make sure Mark looks like the crazy one when I leave him. Just play along. He's paying for everything anyway. Asterisk. I looked at Sarah. I'm a drone, am I? No soul. Well, a drone is very good at recording data, Sarah. And as for the soul, I think I've spent the last 3 years giving mine to a person who didn't exist. You didn't want a partner. You wanted a benefactor. You wanted someone to fund your life while you waited for your artist to come back from his latest failure. Julian finally found his voice. Hey man, this is low. This is private stuff. Private. I laughed. It was a cold, harsh sound. You're in my house, Julian. Drinking my whiskey. Talking to my guests about investments. Speaking of which, Marcus, did Julian tell you about his previous gallery in Portland? The one that closed because $50,000 of artist grants went missing? The one where he has an active warrant for his arrest for embezzlement. Marcus, the gallery owner, took a step back from Julian as if he were infectious. The rest of the guests moved away too. Julian's face went from pale to a sickly gray. An architect always has a backup plan. Save this story to send to anyone who's ever been used as a cover. And if you want to see more moments where preparation beats passion every single time, follow for weekly drops. He looked at the door, but I had already called the police 10 minutes ago, reporting a suspicious individual with an outstanding warrant at my address. Sarah was trembling now. The cool mask had shattered into a million pieces. Mark, please, we can talk about this. I was confused. I love you. No, you love the apartment. You love the stability. You love the version of me that didn't know who you really were. But that guy is gone. I told you I'd be exactly what you deserve tonight. You deserve the truth. You deserve to have your audience see who the lead actress really is. I looked at the screen one last time. I had saved the best for last. It was a bank statement. My bank statement. It showed a transfer of the entire joint savings account. Money I had mostly contributed, but she had access to, into a new, private account in my name only. It also showed the cancellation of the lease on this apartment, effective tomorrow morning. Since you wanted to be with Julian so badly, I said, stepping toward her, I've made it easy for you. I've packed your things. They're in the hallway. Julian, I suspect you'll be staying in a much smaller room tonight, courtesy of the state. Sarah, you have until midnight to find a new place to stay. I'm sure your soulmate has plenty of room in his leather jacket. Just then, the doorbell rang. It wasn't more guests. It was 2 police officers. I walked to the door, opened it, and pointed at Julian. That's the man. Julian Vance. I believe you've been looking for him. As the officers led a protesting, swearing Julian out in handcuffs, the partygoers began to file out in a stunned, awkward silence. No one knew what to say. No one looked Sarah in the eye. She stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by the remnants of a party she had planned as a trap for me, only to find herself caught in the jaws of it. By 11:30 p.m., the apartment was empty, except for Sarah and her suitcases in the hallway. She tried to cry. She tried to scream. She tried to tell me I was a monster. A monster? I asked, calmly cleaning a wine glass. No, I'm just an architect. I saw a structure that was rotten at the core, and I decided it was time for a controlled demolition. You told me to be cool, Sarah. I've never been cooler. I walked her to the door. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry anymore. I just felt light. The movers will be here at 8 a.m. to take my furniture. The keys go on the counter when you leave. Oh, and Sarah, red really isn't your color. It makes you look desperate. I shut the door and locked it. I sat down in my favorite chair, the one she always complained was too functional, and poured myself the last of the good whiskey. I watched the city lights through the window. For 3 years, I had been building a life on a foundation of lies. Tonight, I had leveled the ground. It was time to build something real. Relationships are built on trust, but they are also built on respect. When someone gives you an ultimatum like be cool or it's over, they've already decided that your feelings don't matter. They've already ended the relationship. They're just waiting for you to sign the papers. Sometimes, the only way to win a rigged game is to flip the table. If you enjoyed this story of calculated revenge and emotional justice, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more dramatic tales. Have you ever had a partner try to push an ex back into your life? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. Until next time, stay sharp and always look for the glitches. The silence in that apartment wasn't just the absence of sound. It was the presence of an ending. Every shadow in the corner of the room seemed to hold a memory of a lie Sarah had told. The scent of her expensive perfume still lingered, a ghostly reminder of the woman I thought I loved. But as I sat there, I realized that the woman I loved never actually existed. She was a construct, a beautiful facade designed to keep me invested while she looked for something more. The tragedy wasn't that I lost her. The tragedy was that I hadn't found myself sooner. But now, in the ruins of our 3-year anniversary, I was finally free. The architect was no longer building for someone else. I was building for me. And the first thing I was going to build was a life where no one ever told me to be cool while they stepped on my heart. The coldness I felt wasn't from the night air. It was the satisfaction of a job well done. The system was purged. The bug was removed. The logic was restored. If this story hit different, share it. Because somewhere out there, someone is being told to be cool while their heart is being quietly dismantled. They need to know the architect always wins in the end. Like, subscribe, and comment your biggest takeaway below. I read every single one.